Canby. Welcome to the Canby City Council meeting for November 4th, 2020. We have a short docket this evening, but nonetheless very information filled for sure. We are all accounted for, so we will move into communications. Anything there, Melissa or Joe?
Now, can you hear me?
I can now.
Okay, yeah, nothing for this portion, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Our first opportunity for citizen input and community announcements. According to my note page, we do not have anyone willing to address the council. Is that correct, Melissa?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, thank you very much. For those of you that are viewing and watching at home, if you do wish to in the future, please have your comments emailed into Melissa Bissett here at the city prior to 5 o'clock, usually on the day of the city council meeting. So thank you. Before we move into the, library board request is up next on the agenda. We'll go there. And I believe Carol Palmer is here to take us through that. Hi, Carol.
Hi. Can you hear me?
We can.
Cool. So I am, last week at our library board meeting, we discussed for probably the second or the third time, something that you may be familiar with because it came to your attention last year that we had a member who really missed a lot of meetings. And unfortunately, we were not able to deal with that until they had hit the bar that is set in the current code language. And you should have a copy of that in front of you. And that language is that you have to miss 3 meetings in a row. So before we really took action, one of the things I did was I went back and I looked at the minutes from that period of time to understand how this code change might have impacted us. Would we have been able to deal with the problem earlier? And when I went back through the notes, I found that during a 12-month period of time, this particular individual missed 6 meetings out of the 10 that we had during that 12-month period. But we, again, were not able to deal with it early on. We had to wait 5 months before we could actually hit that bar of 3 in a row. So it seems that it's appropriate to rethink that language. And so that's why we came to you with this recommendation. It was a unanimous vote by the Canby Library Board to do this. So we are looking to you to help us address this problem.
And so just for the viewing audience at home, Carol, we just want to recap here in that the language we're changing is that it's not 3 consecutive meetings, it's just 3 meetings out of the 10 through the course of the year, that would then give the board the latitude or the ability to say, hey, thanks, is everything okay? Maybe this isn't quite for you. Got it. I think that's a good language change. And I think a number of our boards have similar language already in there if they
able to make those meetings and miss a lot. There's a lot of stuff happens in those meetings. And so to have someone that shows up, every 3rd meeting and isn't really an active participant in the board, it makes sense to make this change. So I fully support it. I agree with them that it needs to be changed, and I think that we should change it.
Great. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Any questions for Ms. Palmer on the matter here? No? Okay. Great. I think then we just need a motion to approve the language change.
No, I'm going to stop you right there, Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind.
Okay, Joe.
So this is actually a legislative change. It will require an ordinance. One of the reasons we're here in front of you is because it's an advisory board, and the way that you're supposed to be advised by them is they come to you, and then if you have direction for us, we can do the work that you ask us to do. So we can put together an ordinance. My greater question for this is, if you are wanting to change the attendance policy for one of your boards? Do you want to change it for all of your boards?
That is a darn good question, Joe, and thank you for pointing out the legislative change that we are making here. I appreciate that. Councilor Spoon, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Carol. Thank you for coming to us. I think it's probably prudent if we're going to change it for one board to change them for all. But could we, before we make that decision, I'd be interested in seeing how often each board meets, because I think it should probably scale to how often they meet. Like, it's missing 3 meetings in a year if you only meet 10 times is very different than if you meet every other week. Like, planning commission meets much more frequently and whatnot. So I think it would be appropriate to scale it in some capacity. So I'd be interested in getting information on how often they all meet, if that makes sense.
So thank you, Councilor Spoon. So Joe, with that, I think the desire is to move forward with this change and put that work together for us to take a look at and change. If we could maybe get an outline of which committees currently have this language, and or to Councilor Spoon's point, how often are they meeting, and then does 3 in a year make sense? Because I believe we've got one committee that meets every other month, so therefore if you miss half the meetings, does it still apply? I would argue that maybe it does. I mean, it's more important if you're only meeting every other month that you're there for those meetings in some way, shape, or form, or at least show the willingness to try to be there on those ones that you miss. Can staff put something together regarding that for us as part of this conversation?
Yes.
Okay.
And I mean, the nice part about going through the process as it's envisioned is that now staff has good marching orders on what to bring to you. You can still tweak it, right? And so we will bring to you now something that staff recommends, given exactly kind of the marching orders you're giving us, and then therefore we can kind of do it kind of consistently across the board. The other thing I should point out is that it does say may, it doesn't say shall. So this is still a case-by-case basis that you guys can remove people or not. So if it's, and this is maybe for the viewing audience at home, but if you, if there are special circumstances where somebody meets or fails to come to meetings 3 times, but there's special circumstances, it's still permissible to allow them to remain as a volunteer. So we're not trying to be punitive. And I know Carol was trying to bring this forward for a certain circumstance that would have required it, but it doesn't mean that every time it's required.
For sure. And Joe, I appreciate that. The dreaded shall versus may always comes up in conversation and whatnot. So I appreciate that, making sure we distinguish between that. So for now, I think just maybe a show of hands, or I'll just quickly, Councilor Parker, you're okay with on a group consensus basis to move ahead with it in this direction?
I am. I worry about scope creep. That Carol had a specific request of the council in our efforts to try and be universal. Let's make sure that if this is going to take more than a few weeks to figure out the universe of what we have to do, that we at least address her specific request and we go ahead and pass the library board if in fact getting this additional information is going to be a problem. We've seen this before where somebody's come to us with an idea and we said, hey, we've got a better idea. And then 6 months down the road, they still don't have an answer. So you bet. And Brian, I think, we both remember a couple of years ago, one of our major committees that was suffering because it had a member that just simply did not show up. And at the time we kind of talked around about how we deal with this. So Carol, once again, bringing it to our attention. Thank you. So yes.
Okay. Councilor Spoon, you're good with staff doing homework and presenting?
Yeah, and I'll agree with Greg also. I'd like to get this resolved for them while we kind of do everything else as well.
I agree. Councilor Hensley? Okay, I see a thumbs up on the screen. I'll take that to move forward. Council President Dale?
Yeah, in principle, I'm fine with it. I agree with Councilor Parker. Scope Creek can get away from you, and I'm kind of a fan of you vote on one thing at one time and just deal with them as you go. Want to point out that when you set these kind of attendance policies, you're communicating an expectation of attendance, but you also tend to set a bar for violation, right? Which is what Carol ran into. And we need to not forget that all board members serve at the pleasure of council and can be removed with or without cause at any time. So, you know, it's like when I tell my kids, you do that 3 times and you're getting grounded, right? You've all been there. So just want to keep that in mind. It's both an expectation, but it's also my escape clause. So.
No, that's a great point in that, and to all of the, as we were back to Councilor Parker's point about, and I don't know, I think we're talking about the same large committee that meets twice a month, that we had a person on there. So, and again, it's up to the board's discretion as to whether or not to take action or not, or if that's something that we as a council feel that we need to step in and have that dialogue as well. So, and maybe we do that 2-step piece of, hey, let's address the library board's concerns and issue with this now. And those that are open or want to have that dialogue can then, we can either piggyback on it in their own right, or we'll address it as it comes up and it becomes an issue, right? Sometimes, I think to use Councilor Parker's phrasing, sometimes we're a solution searching a problem, and I don't necessarily see that we need to do that. We just need to address the library board's problem. So, Councilor Vargberg, I know you already spoke, but did you anything further you're on board with moving ahead? Okay, thumbs up for those that are watching or listening at home, one of the two. So, Ms. Palmer, thank you very much for bringing this to our attention, and we definitely will put the work in on this and move this forward for you guys so that you have the ability to manage your board in an appropriate fashion. You're welcome. Thanks for coming. Next on the agenda is mayor's business. I don't have a whole lot, just a couple of points. And as I say that, I'm going to add one more. First off, I want to say congratulations to Councilor Hensley and Councilor Spoon on their election nights, and I guess should say post-election day wins. It sounded like there was some extra counting going on today at Clackamas County, but congratulations to both of you. They'll be looking forward to continue to serve with you. I also want to say congratulations, and looks like we'll be welcoming Jason Padden and Christopher Bangs to our city council here in January. So congratulations to them. Spoke with both of them last night, and so they're both very excited to be joining the council. To Jordan Tibbles and James Heave, I just want to say, well-run campaign, good job. I hope that you stay engaged and you find a board and community to get involved in, and stay and find ways to continue to be engaged and contribute. So thank you for that and whatnot. Just an overall, heads up for everyone. We are seeing large increases in COVID confirmation cases and purported cases out there. I think we were reporting over 500 again yesterday, and that's, I think, probably the 4th or 5th day in about 7 or 8 days that we've been that high. So please take the necessary precautions. Just masked indoors. Watch what you're doing, who you're gathering with. Know who's in your bubble, so to speak. I have nothing on C4 meets tomorrow night, so everything on that front. The Region 1 Act, I think we have an emergency meeting later in the month, and then Park Advisory Board is later this month. So, and finally, I'll just say, fall colors are beautiful out there. The leaves are changing and they're falling to the ground. So here's my annual plea. Please do not blow your leaves into the street. We have 2 street sweepers. They do a great job. They run almost 365 out there in Canby, and it slows the process down when they have to sweep up your leaves from your yard unnecessarily. So with rainy season upon us, please, we need to keep those drain grates clear and our street gutters cleared as well. So please, if you need extra bags or help clearing leaves, I'm sure there's plenty of Canby youth that would love to come and rake leaves for you for the fall. So just keep that in mind. So that's my public service announcements for this evening. We'll move into councilor comments, liaison reports, and I'll start with, we'll go around the clock based on what's on my screen. And so Councilor Parker, you're first, sir.
Well, that's funny, Mayor, because on my Facebook page, it came up actually this week. Mayor Hodson reminds citizens not to put leaves in the gutter. So this is an annual fall tradition, but yes.
Well, thank you, Facebook.
Thank you. Only 2 things today. First, concerning the Historic Landmark Commission. After a year and a half as chair, Jennifer Geiler has stepped down and Judy Jarosh is our new chair. What's exciting to see about this committee, and we've seen it in others, is that when Tony Crawford left as chair, Jennifer had some concern about whether she could fill the shoes, and she did. And it's just wonderful seeing people developing this sort of leadership skill. So yay, Jennifer. Marker repair at Zion Cemetery, scheduled for this year, was finally completed in October. Total repaired 80 tombstones, remaining to be repaired 55. And finally, the committee, Historic Landmark Committee, is planning to finish up its project plans for the next year. These folks are amazing with their planning. Finally, on our bike committee, and this, I've mentioned this before, this is important because parts of it are controversial. This has to do with the Traverso donation of the land starting out by the gun club. Parks Committee went out, got a $35,000 grant. They have hired a contractor who has begun work. This project now has its own acronym. It is MFR, Malala Forest Road. And so we have a MFR Development Plan Advisory Committee that's been organized and is going to be meeting to provide guidance on the planning process. Again, we have some donated riverside property that will allow us to extend our walking and bicycling trails. Part of our concern is to be respectful of adjacent landowners, and the consultant who has been hired by the bike committee is in fact working with them, spending up to a quarter of their time working with landowners, finding out what sort of needs need to be made so they can come back to us and present us with an overall plan. The entire property was walked on October 16th. Members of the Bike and Ped Committee, city staff, Calvin Lesueur, Chris Wright, and trails engineer from the consultants walked it. And they are preparing a virtual open house with maps, photographs, and analysis of existing conditions and opportunities, which I think is perfect for this particular area because it has great potential, but not everybody's going to put on their boots and walk through this area. So more to come, but just to let you know, the bike committee is proceeding with this, and Mayor, we do need to again figure out a way to loop the park group in with this. But, you know, we want to be excited about the fact that we have a committee that has found its own funding and found its own plan. That's it for today.
Very exciting, sir. Thank you. What was the acronym again?
MFR. We now have an MFR in our lexicon. Malala Forest Road.
Okay.
And no, I'm not going to be the liaison to it. So you can find somebody else for that.
Oh, you say that now. All right. Thank you, Councilor Parker. Councilor Spoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I want to congratulate Councilor Hensley and the other people that'll be joining council, and wanted to also say that it is a challenging and difficult thing to run for office, and I'm really proud of everyone that ran. Our community is better for the engagement, and I hope those that did not win a seat will join us on a committee or a board, because we can use people that are excited and engaged about bettering our community. And thank you everyone who voted for me. And if you didn't, I am still here to serve you, and I'm happy to answer your calls or emails anytime you have a question about the city. So the only thing I really have to report on other than that is transit. And the meeting is later this month. I'm going to flip over to my email so I can read it. But Todd, our new director of CAT, has done some preliminary analysis on, I think I spoke a couple of meetings ago about how the next service that we want to add to transit is to do a city circulator. So instead of just going along the route between Woodburn and Oregon City, there would actually be a circulator that went around the city of Canby. And it's a little bit complicated to add a route like that, but that was what the advisory board decided they would like the next project to be as our service expands. Todd did some preliminary analysis, and his conclusion, you know, obviously preliminary analysis, we'll get more information later, but his conclusion is that between the STIF fund carryover and the projects and payroll tax projections, we may actually be able to start the city circulator next fiscal year. So the goal is January 2022. That's like the conservative, but if everything, as Todd writes, if the stars align correctly, we could potentially start as early as September 2021. So that's less than a year away, and it's exciting to see our service expand. Yes, and then also excited for CAT that they were awarded some additional grant money that's going to result in the purchase of a lift equipment van. So it's going to be for folks who can't use the ramps on other buses, and it's a smaller van, so they don't have to use a full-size bus. Particularly, it sounds like from what he writes, in use to transport people, at-risk people to medical appointments, but also other things. And so it's smaller. It's going to get access for people who have difficulty using ramps on buses. So that's exciting. And some of the grant money also is going to help with operations of the van for a while. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, and that's all I have.
Great. Thank you very much. Yeah, the circular will be a key component. We've been missing that for a long time. So
yeah, that's been a long time coming. I know the board's really excited about it too.
Great. Councilor Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm on my phone because my tablet is not charged. But anyway, I just wanted to congratulate Councilor Spoon and others. It was an interesting time in a COVID world to run a campaign. So congratulations to everybody who worked really hard, and thank you to the voters for your confidence in us in continuing to serve. And I don't have a liaison report this time.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Council President Dale.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Last meeting, we talked some about the South Ivy project and the desire to have the power lines undergrounded along that project instead of continuing to run overhead. I was able to meet with Dan Murphy, general manager, to talk about it. It was a good discussion. In the end, it is a money question for them. They don't have as much money as it may seem. Granted, their electric revenues are projected, their electric reserves are projected to be about 10.3 million this year. You subtract off of that 4 million, which they keep in reserve by policy and with the encouragement of the city, that's to cover for major bad events. Which still leaves them about 500,000 short, plus some architects and fees. So it is a money concern for them, but the conversation was positive. Some other background information is they will actually not be in the county right of way. They will be in permanent easement in private land acquisition. So they'll be farther out than the county's right of way, and therefore farther out than the city's right of way. And that was a concern Canby Utility had, so that they would not have to move twice. They have to do it this time for sure because they are in the county right of way, but they don't ever want to do it again should Ivy be widened in the future or have something else come up. So far as the deadline for when the county wants to close off their engineering drawings, Jerry Nelzine is talking with the county about can that be extended or not. They're also researching that because Cub will be in private land easement, is it a major deal or not as to whether the county closes the engineering on their portion, that is to say inside of the right of ways and the street. So they're figuring that out as well. If they're in a private easement, it doesn't matter, as it's not as critical is the thinking there, whether it's above ground or below ground. So there might be some more time to work with there. In the end, the net cost to underground looks like it'll be between $300,000 and $400,000. Undergrounding itself, overheading itself looks like it'll be in the $250,000 range. So another 300 or 400 to go underground. They're working on getting firm estimates on that. They've hit some complications getting those. But the conversation was good. Dan wants to keep talking. And so we're trying to arrange another meeting this week with myself and the mayor to go ahead and continue seeing if we can make some progress there and get to a plan that we can all live with and can all afford to get those lines underground. And Mr. Mayor, that concludes.
Okay. Well, thank you for the homework and the conversation piece. Councilor Parker, you seem perplexed. Did you have a question or comment?
Well, the information that I received through our City Public Works Department was that the Canby Utility District has never done any cost engineering, so they really don't know how much this would cost. Have they actually done that, Tim? They actually know how much that is, and they net it out because they're going to have to move the poles, so there's going to be a cost. So you could subtract that. What is the net amount? Is that the 150,000 you were talking about?
No, the cost of moving could be 250,000 if they keep them overhead. And that again depends on how many poles are savable or not. Because if they're not savable, right, then they have to replace them. Otherwise, they kind of do a slide maneuver with them.
So they don't even have their base information on how many poles are savable. So we don't have firm numbers yet.
We don't have firm numbers yet. They don't have a firm estimate. They are working on it.
Okay. Good to know.
And I checked with Dan this afternoon. So.
All right. Thank you for that update, Council President Dale. I appreciate it. Councilor Varwig.
Yeah, I want to jump on the bandwagon, the congratulations, and also congratulate all those who won their seats and those who will be joining us. I'm looking forward to getting to know Mr. Bangs and Jason Patton a little bit better. I met with Jason prior to the elections and got to know him a little bit and reached out to Mr. Bangs with no response. So hopefully he and I will get a chance to get to know each other. And if not before January, I'm sure we will in January. So I'm looking forward to serving with you guys, and Councilor Spoon, Councilor Hensley, looking forward to continuing to serve with both of you. I know that the elections might have turned out differently for some than they hoped, but it turned out the way that Canby wanted it. And so we look forward to pushing forward and continuing the great work that we're all doing here on council. But I also want to congratulate the fire department because their levy was also renewed. So thank you to the citizens of Canby for voting for that. We will continue to be safe and they take great care of us. So I'm thankful that that was renewed as well. And then as far as the library, we heard from Carol. I know that's the big push on the library board, but also wanted to say that Danny Smith has been in his role now for just over a month, and he says he has been busy. So he and I are hopefully going to get together soon. We've tried a couple of times to get together, and unfortunately, due to some scheduling conflicts, we have not made that happen. So looking forward to that. But I know that Danny's doing a great job over there and staying busy, and that's all that I have.
Great. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Councilor Parker?
Councilor Varwig, I've been asked this week when the library may be opened under new protocols. Have you heard anything on that yet?
I've not. I know that the goal is to be open as soon as possible. I know that it takes another phase, I believe, before we can open.
Yeah, a lot of the state stipulations now are on a percentage base of, what's the percentage of the population of said county and their confirmed and reported contact cases. So, in Clackamas County for yesterday, their numbers were in the 50s, which I haven't seen quite a while. So I know that we're watching that to try to be able to figure out how to get something happening with the library. But to that point, Joe, with City Hall, are we still working remotely with staff? Are they, do we have them on some sort of a rotating schedule in terms of Monday, Wednesday, this group is in, and Tuesday, Thursday, this group is in, or how are we, what are we doing at City Hall currently?
We're doing a little hodgepodge of all of that. Some of our folks, it makes total sense for them to work remotely. They get their job done with a laptop and a phone and do it quite well. And in phase one, the governor basically has ordered us that if it's possible for folks in that position to completely do their job remotely, then we have to let them. Now, other folks, it makes more sense. They come in, and some of them frankly want to come in and kind of interact with people. And so those folks, we do try to stagger so that there's some space in between. So that it kind of hits everything that you're talking about, which is some do mostly from home, some do staggered, and then folks like me work here every single day.
Well, I'm glad that you're there every day, Joe, and that's important.
Let me add too that the library is still checking books in and out. They are just doing it curbside. So the library is still available. You are able to still check out books and materials and whatnot. It's just curbside pickup, and they're doing a great job of that as well. So please definitely continue to use the library, utilize the services that it offers that you can do without it being open.
Great.
And I could add, the initial theory was we had to wait till phase 2 in order to open the library. That's how all the libraries in our whole system have been. If they ever figure out a phase 1.5, I know there was some push for that. We'd have to study that and see what it means for us, and if we could follow the protocols and all of that and do it safely. But we have staff that are eager to open doors and serve. It's just a matter of, practicality and waiting for either phase 2 or 1.5.
Got it. Councilor Parker, look like you had a question.
Joe, and Mara as well, because you've been tracking this. I had forgotten that we have a number of rules that we need to follow. So is this to say that even if our library staff came up with the world's greatest idea on how to socially distance limit the number of people and that sort of thing. That doesn't matter because we have this state standard that we have to meet.
Yes. The short answer, yes.
All right. So that's all I'm worried about is, are we thinking as smart as we can be? But apparently that doesn't matter as long as our numbers are in the 500s.
That's yes.
Okay. I know that this is a little outside of the scope, but we do have Canby Fire joining us this evening. And are you guys there? Are you just here for the meeting and all of the riveting conversation, or did you want to address the council?
No, thank you, Mayor. No, this is Jim. I'm just listening.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
You bet.
You may want to ask the chief if he has a comment that he wishes to make about the Canby Fire constituents.
Chief?
Yes, very much so. And we are the board president, Sean Carroll, and myself, and the firefighters are exceptionally pleased with the outcome of the levy renewal. We so much appreciate the support of the citizens of Canby, the city council, the fire board, everybody, and we're proud to continue to serve the city of Canby. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Chief, and thank you to Canby Fire for all that you do for our community every day. So we appreciate it, and it was a resounding response to the levy, and so that's great great that we have that. Councilor Dale, can I ask you to take the next section for me briefly? I need to go dark for a moment, and I will be right back.
Yes, sir. So I move for the approval of the minutes of the October 21st, 2020 City Council regular meeting as the consent agenda.
Second.
And I got a second from Sarah, right? All right. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, which is the approval of the minutes of October 21st, 2020 City Council regular meeting, please signify by aye or hands. And Tracy, that's a thumbs up. Yes, there it goes back again. All right, that carries 5-0. Thank you very much. Next up, we have resolution number 1353. Joe.
And Jamie Stickle is here to present this. And I will say Julie Blums is also here if you have questions. Both of these fine people have worked pretty hard on this in a quick turnaround. And I think it's something to be really proud of. So I'm just excited they're here to do it.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. This is Jamie Stickle, Economic Development Director. Tonight, I'm delighted to bring to you the staff report and ordinance 1343 for the Canby Resiliency Grant Program. The City of Canby has created the Resiliency Grant Program utilizing CARES Act funding to assist Canby businesses and citizens negatively affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. The funding will be dispersed into the Canby community in two parts. Tonight, I will speak on the grant opportunity for small businesses, and Finance Director Julie Blums will speak on the distribution to local nonprofits to help assist our citizens. Excuse me. We are asking to allocate a total of $300,000 of CARES Act funding available to the city, with up to $150,000 directed towards the small business grants and up to $150,000 towards nonprofits to distribute within the community. All CARES Act funding must be dispersed by the City of Canby by December 30th, 2020. And it is the 30th, not the 31st. As part of the resiliency grants, businesses are eligible to apply for up to $10,000 for COVID relief related to losses incurred by the pandemic. The amount of funding available is based on the amount of eligible applications the city receives. Grant awards will depend on one of two items, either the number of full-time equivalents or the documented amount of fixed operating expenses for the 60-day period of January 1st through February 29th, 2020. For example, a business with 1 to 5 full-time equivalents or FTEs could apply for $1,000, or if they provide verification of their 60-day fixed expenses, they could apply for up to $2,000. This continues to increase for businesses with 6 to 10 FTEs, starting at $2,000 and up to $4,000 respectively. Businesses with 11 to 15 FTEs would be able to receive $3,000 or up to $6,000, between $4,000 and $8,000 being available to those businesses with 16 to 20 FTEs, and finally those with 20 to 25 FTEs being eligible for between $5,000 and $10,000. And this is all explicitly outlined in the program application. Eligible businesses are for-profit businesses located within the Canby city limits who possess a Canby business license currently, and that was also active on March 1st, 2020. Those businesses must be able to demonstrate a 1-month decline in sales greater than 10% in the months of March through October of 2020, as compared to either January and February of 2020, or as compared to the same time period the year before. Additionally, franchises and chain restaurants can apply, provided the owners live within Canby city limits. For this program, small businesses are defined as those with 25 or fewer full-time equivalents, which also includes sole proprietors as of February 2020. The calculation for full-time equivalents is the total hours worked by all employees in February 2020 divided by 173.34, and that calculation is also listed on the application. A short application will be listed on the front page of the city's website, and we have that in English and also translated to Spanish. And the city's economic development department will work to raise awareness for the grant program throughout the community with social media, local news organizations, face-to-face contact with our businesses, provided we're wearing masks and socially distancing, and then also providing that information to community organizations. If the ordinance is approved tonight, that application will go live tomorrow morning. Preference will be given to businesses that were shut down by the governor's orders or closed voluntarily to reduce the spread of COVID-19, as well as businesses who have been unable to access CARES Act funding, which includes PPP, Economic Injury Disaster Loan Assistance, or other federal programs. As applications come in, they will be checked by both the Economic Development and Finance departments for eligibility and completeness, including required documentation. Those that meet the preferences, such as having to close or that did not receive additional federal funding, will be placed in Group A, the others in Group B. After the deadline, which is November 30th, funds will be allocated among Group A applicants. If additional funds are available, Group B applications will be numbered. Numbers will be placed in a hat and selected until the remaining funds are used. And lastly, before I hand it over to Julie for her part with the nonprofit, I wanted to note that this grant would not have been able to come to fruition without the assistance of Julie Blums and Susan Duffy in our finance department. I always welcome opportunities to work with other departments, and I think I can speak for all of us when I say that this is a worthwhile project to collaborate on. So I'm going to turn it over to her, and then if you have any questions of either of us at the end, we're happy to answer.
Good evening. Thank you, Jamie. This has been a wonderful project, and it's been great to collaborate with Jamie on this and my finance analyst with Susan. We have put this together in a really short amount of time, but it is a very worthwhile program. And for once, you will hear me say, I'm excited to give away money. So Jamie talked about the business grant program. We have also allocated $150,000 to give to local nonprofits to provide rent and utility assistance for citizens of Canby that have been affected directly by COVID. That is one of the requirements of the CARES Act, is that it has to be tied to an effect from COVID-19. And we also are working with the Adult Center. They have an additional need when the pandemic hit, they had to change their packaging for food to meet different standards. They also went out and they looked at the most vulnerable of their population that really should not be leaving any time from their home. And they started an additional program of shelf-stable foods for those people to provide them an extra 2 meals a week. And their funding for that program ended in June through the CARES Act that they were able to access through another program. So we're looking to supplement their July through December costs, which are going to be between $8,000 and $10,000. So it's not a high amount, but it is definitely worthwhile and helpful to our senior population. The majority of the funding will go to the Canby Center. I've been working with Ray Keene, and we have an agreement drafted and ready to go that talks about the requirements and that they are going to try to distribute this money to people who need rent and utility assistance. They have to be Canby citizens or residents. And again, it has to be directly related to an impact from COVID-19, whether that's a job loss or they themselves were ill, something like that. And that will be up to the adult center the Canby Center to verify. That will be part of their work. To do that, they are going to have to get some additional staff because they have quite a bit of money they have to distribute in a very short amount of time. So we have added an extra $5,000 for administrative costs for them to bring people on to get this program up and running and help as many people as we can before December 30th. So those are the two programs we have. Now, Kiwanis has approached us with COVID-19 and the social distancing. They are not able to do their food collections this year that they have done in the past. And they're going to try to still do some toy collections, but not as great level as they have in the past. So we really searched through the CARES Act rules to try to find a way to make their need fit, and it does not. So we have tried to be creative because we feel that, you know, their mission and what they do is very important to our community. And we are able to put in for reimbursement through the CARES Act for some of the costs related to staff time that worked in the EOC early on and during the COVID pandemic during March and April. So we have about $12,000, a little over, of staff time that we're going to put in for reimbursement that originally we were told we could not submit staff costs. And the new Treasury Guidance says that we can. So we're going to put in for that. So that will supplement some money that we normally would have spent on personnel costs, and will free up some money for us to possibly give to Kiwanis if the council chooses. That's not part of this ordinance. This is just more of a discussion and letting staff know if this is something you want to do. My recommendation is to give them $15,000. They're going to have to buy gift cards for food this year for the families. And they're expecting their need is probably in gift cards, probably about $30,000. So my recommendation is to give them $15,000. So those are the three organizations we're trying to help that we could directly tie. Well, the Adult Center and the Canby Center, we can directly tie to COVID. The Kiwanis, we're trying to help get them money through a different avenue. So those are what we have before you. Now, one of the things is I've been asked, why did we just find this out? I was on a webinar 2 weeks ago or a week ago, the days blur, And it happened to be a webinar with the League of Oregon Cities, with the state of Oregon, various other government jurisdictions. And they were talking about the new guidance, the updated guidance that had come out from the US Treasury Department, and that there were these, they were finding there were these ways that we could spend this money. And the minute I found out that we could be giving money to grant money to businesses, grant money to our citizens for help, we were on that absolutely immediately. The Treasury guidance has been difficult. They have, their FAQs are now up to, I think, 89. And unfortunately, they will answer a question and then another group will come and analyze it and then they reverse it. And then they come back, which is why the personnel costs have been so iffy. But we do have final word that they are going to let us put in for personnel costs. So it's a very short window. As Jamie said, we have till December 30th to disperse these funds. Anything we do not disperse has to be returned. And at this point, we have no idea if there's going to be a second round, if there will be an extension. So we have been told to treat this as if this is a one-time thing and no extension. So any questions? How do you feel about the Kiwanis donation?
I'm sure there's lots of questions and comments. Julie, thank you to you and your team, and to Jamie for getting right on this and getting this put together. This is very, very important piece for sure. I will say for me, I think if there's a way that we can figure out how to help Kiwanis out, I think that is something we should pursue, and kick open any doors and open as many windows as we can to figure out how to make that happen, because they too are very well plugged into the community, and helping a great deal overall, and especially moving into the holiday season. I had a whole list of questions, and I think you and Jamie have answered most of them. The only question that I have left here right now is, who can businesses and or nonprofits go to seek help with the application if they've got questions or comments? Who best to reach out to?
Jamie is the best contact for that.
Okay.
And for Spanish speaking businesses, Calvin is the best resource for that.
Okay, that's good to know. Do we anticipate, based on the parameters that are laid out and that was reviewed this evening, I think from a business standpoint, I think we'll be able to hit the threshold that we have laid out. Will we be able to use all the funds from a nonprofit standpoint?
I believe we will. Mr. Keene is fairly confident that he can spend at a minimum 100,000 of the roughly 140 that will be allocated to them. But he probably, and that's just based on what he knows already of the requests that have come in and they have not been able to serve. So once this is public, now that it's public, they'll get additional requests. And so I have no doubt that they will have enough requests to spend that money.
Additionally, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
As soon as the information went into the packet and Canby Current did an article on it, not only did I hear from small businesses that are in need, but also from some citizens. So provided that this gets approved this evening, I'm thrilled to be able to push people towards the Canby Center so that they can hopefully have some of their rental and utilities covered by this.
Perfect. Council President Dale, any comments or questions or thoughts on the Kiwanis piece?
No, I like the artful work trying to find them a way, right? I think the only other question I kind of got lost a little bit in there, Julie, about our food banks, like St. Pat's. Are they in? Are they out?
Food is a very touchy issue.
Uh-huh.
It's mostly prohibited. There is one exemption in the CARES Act, and that is for Meals on Wheels specifically.
Okay.
So food is unfortunately not a covered item under the CARES Act.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
All right. Councilor Parker, I saw you waving your hand there, sir.
4 things. First of all, Julie, yes, on the 15,000, figure it out. Second, for those who are tuning in, Julie is our finance director. Her job is to develop rock solid systems that last forever. And she deals on a permanence. And here we have a situation where we have to be agile and flexible. Julie, you're being awesome. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Third, let me say the same thing that I said to the Clackamas County Fair Board staff when we received $185,000 and we're trying to respond to the virus. This is not going to work out elegantly. That there are some people who are outside of the city limits or who may not have a city license, that we won't be able to fix everything for everybody. But we're trying to do this as fast as we can, and speed is a threat to perfection. So thank you for trying to do the best you can. Keep good notes. And when we have our January or February budget meeting, tell us what you learned from this. And finally, isn't it great that we have something like the Canby Center in Ray Keene that is just above reproach, that we need a nonprofit to go to help us partner, and that we have one here. So this is all good, and it's going with tremendous speed. Bureaucracies are not used to moving this quickly. So Jamie and Suzanne and Julie, thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Any other comments or questions for staff at this point?
I just want to make sure I have very clear direction that staff is approved to go ahead and do a donation to Kiwanis for 15,000. Is that correct? I'm seeing lots of thumbs.
I'm seeing 4 thumbs. Councilor Hensley, are you okay with the, okay. So yes, Julie, you have unanimous direction to go and figure out how to make that happen.
Okay, thank you.
No, thank you for doing all the heavy lifting, you and Jamie both. So thank you.
And then this is Jamie one more time. I was just going to say, so obviously the options before you tonight are to approve resolution 1343, which would authorize the use of CARES Act funds for the Canby Resiliency Grant Program, or deny resolution 1343, which would authorize the use of CARES Act funds for the Canby Resiliency Grant Program. And it is our staff recommendation, if you couldn't tell by how excited we are to bring it in front of you, that the City Council approve the use of CARES Act funds for small business grant program and to allocate to citizens through partnerships with local nonprofits.
Well, thank you, Jamie. Appreciate that and whatnot. So I have as a proposed motion would be a motion to approve resolution 1343, authorizing the use of the CARES Act funding for the Canby Resiliency Grant Program would be the motion. So
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
I move to approve resolution number 1343, authorizing the use of CARES Act funding for the Canby Resiliency Grant Program.
Thank you, sir. And I have Councilor Hensley with a second. So the motion's been made by Councilor Varwig and seconded by Councilor Hensley to approve resolution number 1343, authorizing the use of the CARES Act funding for the Canby Resiliency Grant Program. Any further dialogue regarding this? No. All those in favor? I'm seeing 5 yeses. Councilor Dale, Councilor Varwig, Councilor Spoon, Councilor Parker, and Councilor Hensley. I'll vote yes. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you both very, very much for this. We greatly appreciate it. All right. Next on the agenda is City Administrator Business and Staff Reports.
Hey, thank you. So that was super cool. Thank you guys for doing that for your community. It's really cool in government when things can shockingly work quickly. I think at the local level, we can do that a little better. And that was fantastic. Not only a quick turnaround there, but such enthusiasm from you guys is super helpful, and such praise to the staff is extraordinary. So thank you. The first thing I would report is that we have signed agreements with the railroad now officially. So there's going to be no more changes on the 3 crossings for the quiet zone. You guys are now officially on the hook for what they're going to do on those, which is longer arms and flashier lights and, you know, better sidewalks and curbs and things like that. So those things are signed, and we're committed to those 3 crossings with the railroad. So now we can go out and rebid and try to get this thing going for you guys. So that's actually really good news. The second thing I have to share is that we conducted planning director interviews, first round of them. We did come up with a few great candidates, and we've plugged them into follow-up interviews with our new city administrator when he shows up next week. So he'll get a chance to look at the 2 great folks that we have and make a decision. So hopefully that speeds everything along for him and for our whole organization. Ryan Potter's been extraordinary as a senior planner, stepping up to be the acting planning director. And that whole group, that whole department has just stepped up, because if you're doing the work of 5 people when you have 3 people, it's pretty extraordinary. And then of course we have administrative support with Lainey as well. Third thing I have to report is the property at Walnut Street, the URA owns. We did do the asbestos abatement, so we were able to find somebody and do it. We're actually conducting septic removal. There's actually a septic tank there. We want to get that out of the way. And we've gotten the permits on the fast track. We got them out of the county. Jerry Nelson did a wonderful job with some of his contacts. And so we were able to get permits for demo. And we've now signed, as of today, the agreement with Canby Fire so that they can do their practice burn. So they're excited about that. And I think everybody's kind of excited to kind of clear that property and get it ready for next steps and trying to make that Walnut Street extension a reality. So good steps there. Our Arndt Road extension alternatives, we scored proposals. I was part of it, scoring proposals for a couple of applicants about doing the feasibility study. We were actually able to identify one of the firms, so the county now can go forward and negotiate a price with them. The firm that scored the highest kind of had a year-long process that they put in there where they're going to be doing community engagement, the traffic analysis, and working on all the different alternatives. And it looked like within that year-long process, they're gonna, start right away with community engagement, but it goes along throughout the year. You guys can expect to have presentations in front of the Planning Commission and you within about the 8 or 9 month mark. So just be looking in the future, about 8 or 9 months from now, you're gonna have some Arndt Road extension alternatives put in front of you as a board, which is kind of exciting. Hopefully those alternatives don't have such sticker shock that the county can't figure out how to help us actually accomplish them. But this has been about a 20-year project. So hopefully at least we're moving on the right direction there. I would like to personally acknowledge, we had one of our part-time court clerks, her name is Teresa Spellman, in the absence or vacancy in our department where we had our confidential administrative assistant position suddenly open up. We were able to identify Teresa Spellman as a She wanted to come. She said, sign me up to come help. So she's, at least in the short run, come over and helped us out and has been incredibly helpful. She's a part-time person and she's really kind of stepped it up for us in City Hall in the short run. So I just wanted to publicly acknowledge her, as I also say that that position itself, the confidential administrative assistant position, it's a full-time position and it is still open. It closes Friday. We're trying to move quickly because we do have a need. We would love to get some administrative help in City Hall. So we're looking at and scoring some applications right now. But of course, if somebody hears this and wants to apply, they still have a couple of days. So that's part of the news. We also have a mechanic position currently open. We have a vacancy there now too. And so if anybody, and it is actually kind of hard to find mechanics these days, especially good ones. So if anybody knows any mechanics, tell them, hey, Canby would be a great place to work. We need help in our fleet department with mechanics. So spread the news there. And I believe that'll be open until the 19th. Does that sound right? I'm looking over it. It's the 17th, perhaps. Let's go with the younger date, just out of caution. But that's open for a little time longer. So please tell your mechanic friends to apply for Canby. We're a great place to work. We have a second round of police officer interviews that are going to take place. Our first round had a lot of great candidates, and we're excited because we have some, we've identified some great lateral candidates as well as some entry-level candidates. So that's going forward. We're also doing, for the backfill of the lieutenant position, we're actually going to change the name. It's going to be captain instead of lieutenant. And we're allowed to do that. Just as long as it doesn't change the position, giving it a slightly different title actually helps people in their careers. It seems like captains sometimes look like they're closer to chief when they actually go out and try to promote other places. So they're taking the opportunity, if we're filling up one of those positions, to actually start calling them something that might help them out in the long run. And that is an internal process, and that's going to go very soon, within the weeks. And they're also starting the an internal sergeant's process as well. So everything that you guys started moving on by promoting Tro to chief is now coming into fruition pretty quickly. So thank you for that. We finalized a cyber policy within this last few weeks. Our cybersecurity insurance can now be validated. So we're making sure that our, everything that we do in IT can now be covered because we have a strong policy that our insurance will validate any of our concerns as long as we're following our own policy. So that's good. And then congrats, I want to share my congratulations to our two incumbents, Tracy Hensley, Sarah Spoon. Well done and welcome back. And I love a smooth transition. I don't have to train anybody when the incumbents stay on. So thank you. And thank you, Canby. And then congrats to our two new counselors-elect, Jason Padden and Christopher Banks. So we're going to welcome them on and we'll be, getting in touch with them soon enough to make sure that they kind of know what they're getting into. And then I wanted to mention we have current openings. So everybody said, yeah, try to, if those who ran and didn't get quite as many votes as everybody else, try to sign up for boards or commissions. Well, we happen to have one opening on our planning commission, as well as one on our transit advisory board. So please put your applications in for those and see what happens there. And finally, I would like to just thank you guys. This is my last city administrative report. Maybe not forever, but maybe, for now. So I just wanted to thank everybody here for trusting me and working well with me. And there's obviously still some transition that we have for our new city administrator, Scott Archer, but he's coming on Monday. We've kind of put together a schedule for him so that he can kind of hit the ground running. We've been in good touch with him as well. And mostly he's been in great touch with us. So he's super eager to be here and proving it by working for free several times. And now he's going to come on the books as of next Monday. So that'll be where I step down. So thank you for this opportunity. The one kind of self-dealing I'll put out there for you guys is because there is a changing board here soon, you're going to have a third new members. And because it's been a year and 9 months since my last review, what I would ask is, can I get a review, an exec session, either next meeting or the first one in December, so that you guys can review my performance, because you guys are the ones who got to see it. And because of all of the happenings that have happened over these last few months, it's probably a good time for me to say, hey, I'm right here, I'm doing work for you. So that's what my ask is. Thank you, Tracy Hensley, for the thumbs up. Thank you, Councilor Parker, Councilor Spoon, Councilor Dale. I'm especially happy, Councilor Warwick, thank you guys. I'm especially happy to have Tim Dale chime in, because he's a very wise man, and I'm sorry to say that he won't have too many more of these meetings either. So I would love to get his review before he leaves, and that's kind of my selfish ask. So thank you for that. That is my report.
Excellent. Thank you, Joe. That was a lot. I think it goes without saying that there's been a lot going on. And I think that you stepped in and did a great job as our interim city manager. And I really do appreciate the leadership and the things that you kept moving along, and have obviously brought a few things into closer to the finish line. So it has been greatly appreciated. You've also started some new things, I think, that the team will more than likely continue to do and share with the community, like the newsletter and those internal communication pieces, which I really appreciate you have done. Joe, you stepped in and did a great job, and I'm glad that we put the ball in your hands over these last couple of months to carry it, and we really appreciate it. So thank you for that. I also know that you could not have done it without the help of Melissa and the other department heads as well. So thank you to all of them for your hard work and support of Joe and of the city during this, again, another transition and a pandemic, and gosh, like 10 different projects that were, with tons of moving parts. So I appreciate all of you very, very much. And thank you for all the hard work that you've put in these last couple of months.
Thank you.
Councilor Parker.
Yeah, I wanted to second that, Brian. We were very fortunate to be able to have Joe Lindsay step in and take this job so seriously. We really needed the help at the time, and Melissa, you stepped up as well. Thank you for doing that. At a time when some governments during the pandemic just kind of took a pause and said just existing is fine, we actually were able to advance things. So, oh, and finally, if the presentation by our economic development director sounded more elegant tonight, it is because she now has a master's degree in public administration. So I think we should recognize that as well.
Most definitely.
Thank you for reminding of that, Councilor Parker. That's excellent. We're super proud of her. She was able to continue working while she was working through her master's program, and has done just an excellent job moving the ball forward in many ways. And it's a super cool thing. I always point out that, I think it's maybe 29% of Oregonians have a degree, and then it shrinks down to about less than 5%, I think, for advanced degrees. So she sets herself up to be in a great position, especially in her position. So.
Great. Well, Council President Dale.
I know you want to get out of here, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to pile on and thank Joe as well. When Joe came to the mayor and I and said, "Hey, give me a shot," we were like, "Really? You have such a young, promising life ahead of you. Well, why do you want to do this?" you're a lawyer, you know better. And he was, no, I'm serious. And we're like, do you need to be evaluated, But, Joe, usually, I think Councilor Parker and I joked about this in the past. It's been a while. Usually with an interim, your general direction is make sure the paychecks get issued and don't break anything. Okay. And just hang on tight till the new captain gets here. And Joe, you went above and beyond. You really did. You inherited a tough transition, and you moved some really tough, thorny projects down the field a long ways. And as well, Melissa, just a great job there. I know you two have to work closely together. And all the department heads and the mayor and I appreciate you not tossing Joe down, off the second floor, but you all pulled together as a team. And so very impressed. Thank you, Joe. You have done amazing. And I know Scott's walking into a much better place for your efforts. So thank you.
Thank you. And I really do take that seriously, that you guys hired a great person in Mr. Archer, and it's cool that he'll come in, and I think we have a good climate, and we're used to moving the ball forward now. So hopefully we just kind of keep up and keep on kind of creating an environment. You're right about all the directors. They've been super helpful. It's super nice to work here, and it's even nicer when there aren't any office politics or targets being painted on your back. So it's a testament to a good team. We're a super lean team. We're going to try to fill us out a little bit, but we're excited to have your new hire on, and I'm excited for you guys to get to work with him. And I'm excited to be, at least psychologically, for you guys to have a number 2 in the wings just in case. So just know I'm here.
Very good. Thank you, Joe.
Okay. We have our second opportunity for citizen input. Melissa, has anyone chimed in at all?
They have not. I'm answering for her. She was actually smiling and happy when you guys were giving her good compliments too, and she says thanks.
Well, good. Well, we'll give her an opportunity now to do action review, perhaps.
Yes, thank you very much for the kind words. So you have approved the consent agenda and resolution number 1343.
Great. Before we move to adjourn, I will throw out, and Joe's already stated it, but I will also add my 2 cents that yes, Mr. Scott Archer begins his role as our city administrator on Monday. That would be the 9th. Please, counselors and general public, but specifically counselors, please let the man, I saw that, Councilor Parker, please let Mr. Archer get moved in, set up his office, find out where key things are like the coffee machine, the bathroom, and meet his staff before we start marching into his office and bombarding him. He's been fantastic in meeting with I think he's met with everyone prior to him launching on the 9th. I just ask again, allow him some breathing room, maybe through Thanksgiving before we start hitting the man with more wish list items. And we want to know why we can't get Walnut Street earlier than 8 months, because that'll be my ask, because I want to know, can we get it in 6 or 7? So, but I'll wait and I'll bring that up with him after that. His first meeting with us officially will be the 18th. He will be taking the helm and running the administrative roles for that meeting. So we are looking forward to him coming in. And again, Joe, Melissa, all the department heads, all of the staff, thank you so very much for riding this through with us as much as possible. It's been a big deal to have the leadership that we have in our city, and we can't do our jobs and look as great as we do without the day-to-day operations and work that you all do. So thank you for all of that. And So again, counselors, let the man get in, get settled and breathe. All right. Okay. If there's nothing else, I will take a motion to adjourn. So moved by Counselor Hensley via a thumbs up.
Second.
Counselor Varwig with the second. All those in favor of adjourning for the evening? 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 5. Thank you. There's anyone else want to hang out? I'm sure with that, I will say we are adjourned for the evening. Canby, good night, and have a great evening. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.